Hello and welcome to this lecture, and in this lecture we are going to learn one interesting thing, and that is how to basically pass in the form data to the template. So in the previous few lectures we have already learned how to pass in the data to the template that was actually passed in the URL format. That is nothing but we have passed the data in the URL and that data got reflected into a template. But this lecture is going to be somewhat different, and what we are going to do in this case is that we are going to design an HTML form, and let's say the HTML form is going to accept some kind of data. So we are going to take that data and we are going to pass that accepted data which is entered by the user to a new template. So in order to understand how this thing works, let's open up the folder which is the Flask site. And here what we are going to do is that we are going to have a new HTML form, and that is going to be called as student.html. So let's go into the templates folder and let's copy this file, paste it over here, and let's name it as student. So let's assume that we want to accept students data and we want to pass it on to a template. So once you have the student file, let's open this thing up with Sublime Text, and here let's make a few changes. So let's delete this JS and also let's delete the body. Okay, so now in this case we want to design a form. So let's type in form, and in this form let's type in the action as. So what we want to do is that we want to take up the form details and we want to pass it to a new template, and let's assume that we want to have the URL of that new template as /result. So what we will do is that we will type in action equals http:// localhost, which is same as the address, :5000/result. So this is the URL which we are giving for it. And now let's also type in the method. So the method is going to be post. Okay, so once we have this thing, let's set up the form elements. So the first element is going to be let's say name. So we type in name, which is nothing but the name of the student. So we type input type equals text, as name is stored in the textual format, and we again type in name. Then we close the paragraph tag, and what we are going to do is that we are going to simply copy this line and we are going to paste it multiple number of times here. So the first one is going to be for name, the second one is going to be for a subject, and let's say that subject is physics. So we type in PHY as a short form, and the name is also going to be PHY. The second one is going to be, let's say, chemistry. So let's type in CHEM and CHEM. And let's say the final one is going to be for maths. So let's type in MATH and MATH over here as well. Okay, so we are done designing the form. We just need to add in a submit button at the end. So we again type in p tag, which is the paragraph tag, and then type in input type equals submit, and let's say the name is also equal to submit, or let's say the value is equal to submit. So we type in value equals submit. Okay, so once this thing is done, we are pretty much designing this form right here. So if you open up the folder, and even if you open the student file from here in the browser, as you could see, this is how it actually looks like. So we have the fields to enter the name, the 3 subject marks as well. So what we want to do essentially is that we want to store the name of the student and the marks which he scored. So the form design is almost done, and now the next thing which we need to do is that we actually need to design the result.html file, which is going to pop up when we click that submit button. So what we want to do is that when we click this submit button, the website should redirect us to the new page which is /result. So we need to design the HTML page for result as well. So what we are going to do is that we are again going to make a new file over here, and let's name that file as result, and let's edit this thing up in Sublime Text, and here let's delete the entire code. So let me just delete the other stuff, and let's have a basic HTML template. And in here, let's say you want to display the student data in a tabular format. So what we do here is that we type in table, and that is going to be table border, because we want to set a border equal to 1. And in this table, the first thing which you need to do is that you need to iterate through all the fields. That is nothing but the name is one field, the physics marks are one field, the chemistry marks is another field, and the final field is the marks obtained by the student in maths. So in order to go through each and every field, what we do is that we use a for loop. So what we basically do is that we use curly brackets, and in this curly brackets we type in a for loop. So that is going to be for. So we actually have a key value pair in this case, so we type for key comma value. So key is nothing but the attribute, and the value is nothing but the value for that particular attribute. So name is actually a key, and the value is nothing but the value stored for that name. So we type for key comma value in result. So as we are talking about result, we type key comma value in result dot items, and we actually end the loop by typing in end for. So we type in end for, and the table which we are designing is actually going to go ahead in between these two statements. So whenever you want to design the rows for the table, you type in the tr tag for table row, and in this table, and within this table row you will have the column as well as heading. So let's first type in the table heading. So table heading is going to be equal to the key value, so we type th, and that is going to be the key value. And then let's specify the table columns by typing in td. So td is going to be the actual value for that key, so we type in value over here. So once this thing is done, we are pretty much done designing the table. So now what will happen is that when we actually visit the result.html from the student.html, we will automatically have a table which is populated with all the values. So the only thing which we need to do now is that we need to make changes to the main Python file, which is app.py. So we go right here, and the very first thing which we need to do is that we need to make sure that we have imported the proper things. So one more thing which we need here is the request. So let me just import it right here. And now for this route, we actually want to load up the student.html file. So instead of this def index, let me name it as student, and instead of this, let me just type in student.html. So once this thing is done, we also want to set up the route for the result. So we type in at app.route, and to this we pass in the URL as /result, which will redirect us to the result.html page. So we type comma methods, and we specify the methods as we actually did in the previous lectures as well. So that is going to be post comma get. So once we have these two methods, let's define a function associated with this URL right here. So we type def result, and we absolutely pass nothing as a parameter, but we need to check if the request method is post. So we type if request dot method, if this is equal to post, that means we actually want to extract the result from the form. So we type result equals request dot form, and then we actually want to return the result.html file. So we simply type in return render template to basically give out the template, which is nothing but the result.html file. So we pass in that file over here. So we type in result.html, and then we also pass in this result right here. So we type in result equals result, and remember that this result actually contains the data which we actually extract from the form. So right here in this line of code, we extract the data from the form, and right in this line we pass that data, which is result, to the result.html file, so that this file could actually display out the data. Okay, so once this thing is done, we are pretty much good to go. So let's save the file and let's open up the web browser. And even before doing that, make sure that the server is up and running. So I'm going to run the server. I'm going to copy this address and let's paste the address in the browser. So if I hit enter, as you could see, I now have this form right here. So let me just type in my name. Let's type in some random mark values. And when I hit submit, as you could see, now the same data is actually represented in a tabular format right over here. So this is how you could pass in the data from a form, which is this thing, to a template, which is result.html file. So the only thing which you need to remember is that whenever you design a form and the form is actually present over here, you actually need to associate a URL with it along with the post method. And when you actually go into the result.html file, we simply need to iterate through all the key values in that particular object which we have passed. So this is the HTML code which we have designed in order to display the data in the tabular format. And finally, in order to make changes to the app.py, the first thing which we did is that we associated this home page with the student.html template. And the next thing which we did is that we have associated the result URL with the result function. And what this result function does is that it basically accepts the data using the post method from the form. So this line of code right here basically extracts all the data which is stored in the form in the form of an object, and finally we pass in that data to the render template function. So basically this is the data or the form data, and this data is passed to the result.html file. So that is how everything works, and that's how you could pass in the data from a particular HTML file to another HTML template. So that's obviously quite simple, and you could also try on your own by implementing your very own templates and by sending in some data using the post method. The only thing which you need to remember is that you associate proper URLs, which is this, and you also use proper for loops to iterate through the key value pairs. And the final thing which you need to do is that you need to associate a proper route to each and every function, and those functions should actually have code to extract data from the form and to pass it on to the template. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Thank you.